Hello everyone. Hello everyone. I'm Robert Cookers from cookerstherapy.com, and I'm a hypno coach and a healer, and I help people eliminate their emotional blockages and get rid of this subconscious programming that works against them, right? So in a typical scenario where you're finding yourself that you're unable to do the right thing in your life or achieve something while clearly, wanting it but not being able to. That's my job. That's where I can help you, right? And you're welcome to come to cookerstherapy.com, sign up for a free consultation, and I'll show you exactly how it happens. Okay? But today we're gonna talk about what really controls your life, what controls you. Okay. To put it another way, do you really have a free will? Okay. Do you have a free will to do the things in life that you really want to do? That's a very important question to ponder. And why? Because I'm sure that all of us have felt at times that we really don't control our life, We feel helpless. We find ourselves in situations where we are acutely aware of the fact that we want things to be a certain way, but it's just not happening. And sometimes we blame the external factors, be it the government or the system or your spouse or your parents, upbringing, anything, Or we blame ourselves. We just see ourselves as someone that is broken, incomplete, something that needs to be fixed. So that immediately puts ourselves into the mindset that we're something lesser than, okay? So we belittle ourselves. And so we go through our lives, same vicious circle. We don't see the way out, okay? So what do? We try and comfort ourselves somehow. Forget about it all, drink, eat, watch Netflix. You know yourself, right? But now, let's go deeper into the question, what really is it that controls it all? Is it the government? Is it the fact that you are broken and incomplete and you are just destined to fail? Did you come into this world to fail? Do you really believe that? Let's talk about it. So, you surely do have free will to pick certain things, right? You can pick a sandwich that you're going to eat for lunch. Surely you can. You can walk into the shop and there's 5 choices. So you're going to pick one. So that's your free choice, right? Or you're going to listen to some music. So you will pick the one that you like, right? So that's your free choice. Or you're going to buy the clothes that you want. That's your free choice. Even though there are some that will argue that it's not really a free choice. I remember I read the book Homo Deus, A Brief History of Tomorrow by Yuval Noah Harari. And in that book, he's expressing the idea that your what seems like free will is actually predetermined based on your biological processes, your instincts. Basically, what he proposes is that deep down inside, if someone, like an artificial intelligence algorithm or something, right, could analyze that, they would know what you want to do even before you knew it yourself, right? So, but that's another topic. That's another topic that we're not going to touch upon. Let's assume that, by and large, you have the free will to choose the drink that you're going to drink, or movie that you're going to watch, or the car that you're going to drive, okay? Within your budget, of course. But now, let's talk about situations when you treat someone badly, right? So for instance, an example from my own life. My kid comes to me and he's whining and he wants this and wants that, and I know the right way that I should treat him, right? I know that I should give him the security and the love and everything. But let's say that I didn't have good sleep myself, or I'm a bit under stress at work or whatever. So what I might say to my child is something less than ideal. I might tell him, hey, just leave me alone for now. That is busy. I'll get back to you later or whatever. But your tone might be not ideal. So the kid might perceive whatever you're saying as you refusing him, you're pushing him away or whatever. And these situations used to happen in my life a lot before I did my therapy, Nowadays, it's quite rare, but it does happen. But then again, we're all humans, We're all humans. Even the most enlightened people are still humans. And we all have the emotions, the full range of emotions. And sometimes we do the wrong thing, so to say, right? But anyway, the fact of the matter is that before the therapy, when I sometimes snapped at my kid or whatever, I knew that it was wrong. Like I knew that 100%. But still something inside of me made me do it. And while doing it, while being grumpy or raising my voice a little bit, while doing that, I knew that it was wrong. So the question is, what made me act that way? Why couldn't I help it? Right? Another question to ponder. We all have those days when we wake up in the morning and we're grumpy. So why are we that way? You know those days, right? And the fact is that mood then sets the tone for the entire day. You are grumpy. You're not happy with yourself, and by extension, you're not happy with the world, right? So almost all the interactions with the world, with other people, don't go the way that they normally do, right? You are grumpy, and then you bring that grumpiness into every interaction. And then you rather probably decide that it's not worth talking to anyone, and that day is pretty much, to be written off. So you just go for a walk or, watch some Netflix or whatever, and you hope that tomorrow comes sooner and you can forget about it. But why were you grumpy? And why couldn't you help it? That's a question to ponder. Is it really something that you have no control over, like whatsoever? That's a good question, right? And then it can get even worse. You could have, for example, an anger fit when you feel like you want to, just explode. And it used to happen to me a lot before my therapy. I'll just give you a few examples. I remember I was very young. I was just a kid. I was 23 or 24 at the time. So I had just come to Ireland, where I used to live. I came from my home country, which is Latvia, and I worked in a warehouse. And I wanted to show everyone how hard of a worker I was. So I worked extremely fast and hard. So anyone who would move a bit slower than I did, I looked down on them. And I was angry at them because in my mind they were slowing down the whole team, right? So I remember there was this one guy who was, like, now in retrospect, he was more sane than I was. He wasn't as sick, And he moved in a normal pace, He wasn't as anxious as I was. And I started shouting at him in front of everyone. I just lost the plot. I shouted at him over top of my voice. And I thought at the time that I humiliated him. But what I really did is I humiliated myself. And what happened after that? I felt super guilty. I was so guilty after, but I tried to suppress that feeling for my ego to maintain the composure, right? And for my mind. So I had to come up with some kind of a reason why that was the right thing to do. So what I was telling myself is that probably it wasn't, needed to shout at him so badly. But I still didn't admit to myself that it was completely wrong, I still thought that he was slow and that wasn't the right way to go about it. I felt that I was in a position to judge him, okay? So my anger fit in my mind was, kind of justified. Why did I do it? And I felt like I couldn't control myself. At that moment, when I started shouting at him in front of everyone, I didn't really want that, In my mind, I did see myself as an aggressor even then, but I just couldn't help it. Why? I completely lost control. And I'm sure you can think of such scenarios in your life too. When you are angry to a point where you just can't help it. So what is it? What gives? Why are we that way that we seemingly can't even help ourselves? So that's about how you treat other people, right? But now, how do you treat yourself? And here's something that used to happen to me a lot in my work before I did my therapy. My work is quite, demanding emotionally and mentally as well. So when you're banging your keyboard for, for 1 hour, 2 hours straight, 3 hours straight, right? It's not healthy. You need to distract yourself a little bit. Take a few minute break, go for a coffee or whatever. Just look away, as they say that's the right thing to do when you're working at the monitor. You should not be staring at the monitor 3 hours straight, till your eyes get square. But that's exactly what I used to do. I was so pulled into the process. I just couldn't pull myself away from the keyboard and the monitor, even though I knew that that's exactly the thing that I had to do. Like 30, 40 minutes after, hey, someone in here was telling me you should now take a few minute break just to relax a little bit, just stretch out, look out the window, exercise your eyes a little bit, all of these things that we all know, but I just couldn't do it. I just felt compelled to keep working, pedal to the metal, full throttle, keep working. And I was basically burning myself out. I was doing it to myself while not wanting to do it. So what is it? Why did I do it? Why did I act that way? What was it in me that prevented me from doing the right thing, the logical thing, the rational thing? That's a good question to ask, right? Now, another way we treat ourselves badly is when we don't give ourselves enough. What used to happen to me personally is I would not even buy myself new clothes. I would be wearing old clothes, and every purchase that I had to make, I was I was really trying to justify whether that's really necessary or not. I was 100% in the poverty or slash scarcity mindset, right? So I was never giving my body, my persona, the thing that it really needed. The constant reminders that I'm worth it. Why do we even live on this planet, right? We come into this world to experience it and to feel good. And one of the ways, the simplest ways how we can feel good is to literally feel it. Tell me, what are our senses? The touch, yeah, the sight, the hearing, and all of that. So we can go for something physical that makes us feel good. Food and drink, that's super simple, that's low level. But that's that's exactly the kind of things that we would typically go for to feel good, right? We're just trying to fill our internal hole, the bottomless hole that you cannot fill ever. And that's another issue that I used to have, this constant overeating and drinking at night that went on for years, that drove me to the point of where I wouldn't say depressed, because we should not be using that word lightly. I think it's a bit overused, right? Because everyone is depressed these days. Well, you know what real depression is? It's a situation when you can't even get out of your bed. Like literally, okay? But anyhow, I had an issue like that. And where was I going with this? Oh yeah, so that's the only thing how I used to kind of reward myself for whatever. But otherwise, other than that, I wasn't rewarding myself in any other way. It was a complete 100% scarcity mindset. I thought that by giving myself something, I would just waste money. I didn't see the other way around, the real way, which is you need to reward yourself regularly for the things that you do in life, for the achievements, so that your body, your subconscious mind knows, I did well and I deserve to be recognized. My worth is growing. But my real inner worth was zero. It was zero. Up until recently, up until like half a year ago, it was still zero. Even though I have a good job, reputable job, internally, I saw myself as zero because I was always putting others on the pedestal. I saw everyone else smarter than me. Despite the comments that I was getting from my colleagues and everything, I was still valuing myself as zero. Right? And why? The question is why? Why do we belittle ourselves to the point that we think that we're nobodies when we're constantly worried about other opinions? And we don't reward ourselves. Why is it? That's a good question to ask, isn't it? What else? Yeah. Relationships. That's a big one, isn't it? I remember when I had my first serious relationship, I was really unhappy for the most part, but I couldn't resist it. I felt this strong pull to remain in that relationship. It was like magic, like bad magic. And I just couldn't resist it. And it went on for a few years. And I was miserable most of the time. And I tried to rationalize it to myself. I was constantly lying to myself about it, basically. I was lying. I was saying, no, everything is fine. Even though deep down inside I felt so hurt and so bad. And again, that was a way for my ego to maintain some kind of a sense out of the whole mess. Because if I were to openly admit to myself, yes, that's super bad. Like there's something that like completely wrong here. If I were to do that, then that would be going in stark contradiction with the reality, and it would be intolerable to live and exist that way. So that's why so many people stay in these toxic relationships, and they just can't get out of them. They just can't get out of them because there is something in them, just the way I experience it, that you just have that kind of a pull towards that person, and you can't get out of it. So what is it? What is it that controls you? It almost feels like bad magic, doesn't it? It certainly did in my example. And after that, I did have another relationship like that. It was a not so recent past relationship that when I look back at it, I'm amazed at how I ignored a lot of the red flags and everything, but I was so pulled into it that I, again, didn't want to admit it to myself to maintain the status quo of my ego. So that my ego and... hi, Eva. Thank you for joining. Thank you. And thanks for the good comments and everything. So yeah, what is it? What is it that pulls us into these toxic relationships against our will? Because deep down inside, we know that it's really bad, really wrong, but we still can't help it, right? Now, so far about how we treat others, how we treat ourselves. And now let's touch upon the big life choices, right? For example, your future, your career, your education. Those are really serious matters, right? That pretty much determine what our lives are going to be. What do you want to do in life? Where are you going to study? Are you going to study? All of those questions. But a lot of times when we're in our, late teens, 18, 19, 20, early 20s, right? We just don't know anything. So how come? How come that we've gone through the school system, through the education, we're adults, yeah? From the point of 18, you're an adult. Well, in States, it's 21, when you can start drinking and all of that. But anyhow, around those, 18, 19, 20, that age, around those years, you are considered to be an adult, a person who's fully capable of deciding for themselves, right? But most people just don't know what they want. When I was 18 and I finished my high school, I really didn't know what I wanted, like at all. I was, to be 100% honest with you, I wasn't even bothered about my future, which is a crazy thing to say, right? And yeah, Eva is 100% right. Yeah, she commented about the toxic relationship and the pull, the pull that you feel towards that person. But yes, Eva, I'm just building building the momentum here, bringing up examples and constantly asking the question, why is it that we can't help it? Why is it that we can't help but to shout at someone when we don't want? How come that we can't treat ourselves better, even though we kind of know that we should, but we still can't? What is the reason why? So that's the question I keep asking. And the answer is going to be given, soon enough. But just bear with me. I'll just give you a few more examples here, right? So yeah, going back to the education and it's pretty much one of the biggest life choices, apart from, who you're going to marry and all those sort of things, right? Like, what are you going to do in life? What career are you going to get into? And all of those things, right? So when I finished my high school, I didn't care about my future, like at all. I was just living in the moment. I was so taken over by my relationships, what was going on, in my personal life, basically, that I spent very little on considering the gravity of my decisions in terms of like where I'm going to study, what should be the best choices at that point in time in terms of, what my future is going to be. I was just 100% focused on my relationships, and everything was just falling apart, and I was drinking, partying, like a lot of young people do, right? So why? Why couldn't I be rational? We like to think of ourselves as rational creatures, right? Because we're humans. Are we? Are we rational? What is it that drives us then? And I'll give you a good one. It's kind of funny looking back at it now. I remember when I was going for the entry exams. Yep, exactly. We all did that. Exactly. So I was going for the entry exams after my high school to the capital to get into the university, right? So guess what I did? I drank all night. I didn't sleep at all, and I went straight to the exams. That was the quote-unquote right thing for me to do at the time. Instead of preparing for the exam, I just partied all night. I can't remember whether I passed it or not. Probably I did, because I did complete a full years of study in that particular faculty after that. But that just shows the level of significance that education in my future played in my life at that time. It was pretty much zero. I just did it for the checkbox, just because my parents wanted it. It was an obligation, kind of, right? Yeah, it's crazy, right? But the question still remains: why? Why couldn't I just act rationally? And what drove me? Like, what really controlled me, right? That's the question for today. What is it that controls us? And there's a good few more things on my list. Are you regretting? Look back at your life, right? Are you regretting a lot? Now that I've undergone therapy, I have no regrets, because I realized that everything that ever happened to me happened for a reason. Every apparent failure or bad relationship or bad decision, all of those experiences are just stepping stones, okay? But before my therapy, I was quite regretful for having seemingly, wasted years of my life pursuing the wrong thing and all of that. So what kind of regrets did I have at the time? I was procrastinating a lot. I was procrastinating like there's no tomorrow. I had an online gig going for a few years. I was a blogger and a YouTuber. I was an English fluency coach. Okay, so there were periods where, despite knowing exactly what I had to do, the kinds of videos that I had to record, I have my to-do list ready, right? I just could not do it. I would be just sitting in the room pretending that I'm working, because I told everyone else that I'm working, but I was just going nuts in that room, despite the fact that I knew that I had to take a camera, start recording a video, and then put out a blog post and stick it up on YouTube and everything. I just couldn't do it. And here's a good one. I even organized in my job at a time that I would do 3-hour work days, and then the remaining 2 days, Monday and Friday, I would dedicate to my online business, right? And in a crazy way, that was when I could work on it the least. Despite the fact that now I had 2 full days and I told everyone, this is it, Robert is going to be working in the office, don't bother me. And I'm sitting there pulling my hair out and not being able to do anything. My procrastination was that bad. So again, why? I'm a rational being. I wasn't, under influence or drunk at the time. I was just, really willing to do the job that's required to keep my blog going and keep the income coming in. And I just could not. It's mad, isn't it? But I just couldn't. And then, this same overeating and drinking that I already mentioned, for years, I was in the following pattern. I would be waking up in the morning full of motivation, dedication, and resolve that this is it. I'm going to live the good life. I'm going to be the best version of myself. I would exercise, go for a run, hit the gym, be really dedicated and everything. And then as the evening was coming, I sensed it, like the devil whispering in your ear. Tonight's going to be the same. Tonight's going to be the same. And it was like, what's happening? I don't want that. No way. I'm not going to do it tonight. But at the same time, deep down inside, I knew that I was going to do it all over again. So, in the evening, before 10 o'clock, which is when the local shops would stop serving alcohol, I just drove into the shops, picked up my 6-pack, went back home, started drinking. And then when after a couple of, cans, and I was trying to convince myself that I'm not an alcoholic, I'm not a hard drinker. I'm just having a few ciders or beer, right? So after a few cans, my head would be stuck into the fridge and I would start eating. And then a couple of hours later, I would be bloated. I would be, so stuffed that I would be sick. And the same thing happened the following day, In the morning, I would wake up, feel super regretful, and I decided every day that my new life is happening. And it went on for years. I visited a doctor, and I told him that this is driving me nuts and I don't know what to do. You know what the doctor said? He said, listen, we all do that. But that's not even, moral of this story. The story is, why couldn't I just stop myself? You will say it's an addiction. I wasn't like an alcoholic. I wasn't drinking gin or whiskey or vodka and drinking myself into stupor, I just had a few and overate. And for my, doctor, that was like the norm. Sure, everyone does that. But I was miserable. I couldn't get out of that vicious circle, Why? Why? And what else? What else? What other regrets are haunting us, huh? I suppose if we look back at our lives, everything that I spoke about is something that we regret, right? Whether we treat others badly, treat ourselves badly, don't stick to our dreams, and the best intentions just disappear in the face of whatever it is in here that drives you, that controls you to do the wrong thing, the opposite to what you really want to do. Okay? So what is it that drives us? Is it the faith? Is it something predetermined? Is that why it's so hard to resist it and we can't help it because it's written in the stars and you were born on such and such date and because of that you just can't influence it? It's set in stone? Is that why? Or maybe it's just life, right? And that's a typical victim's mindset. It's something else, you know. It's the government, it's the system. We're just a small whale in the bigger system. We're in the matrix. And that's the way every person's life is, except for the elites, right? They have it all figured out because they've been living like that for generations, and we, lesser people, we are just destined to fail. And that's the victim's mindset speaking. And it's very compelling because guess what? A lot of those things that people who have fallen victim to their own inner victim, a lot of those things are right, you know? Whatever excuse I used to come up with to justify why my life is miserable was more than likely a very valid excuse. When I was a kid, I used to tell everyone that I just can't get a better job other than a shop assistant because I don't know anyone. And then I would find examples of other people who've gotten better jobs, that they've been talked into those jobs. It's because they knew someone who knew someone, and that person was connected to that company's boss or whatever, and they were talked into those positions. And that was a totally valid reason for me to, you know, explain why my life sucks. The same went with everything else, you know. I was just complaining. I was complaining to everyone how hard I worked, you know, that nobody really, you know, appreciated me. And that's the victim's mindset. And all of those things are kind of correct if you look at it from a, you know, from my point of view, you know. Yes, I did feel underappreciated. I felt all of those things. But did that help? And was that really that controlled my life? The fact that I was stuck in a matrix, everything was predetermined. I really had no way out. Why is it then that, you know, how long ago was that? I forgot, but like almost 10 years, I think. Yeah, when I decided to finally change my life, that everything changed. So if it had been, you know, written in the stars, I wouldn't have been able to change my career, turn my life around, and now change my relationships completely. Now I'm delighted. I have an amazing fiancée. I love her to bits. We have a kid, and our lives couldn't be better. Whereas 10 years ago, I was miserable. So if my life was predetermined and it was all written in the stars that I was destined to suck, why could I suddenly change? So what is it really that controls us? So let me spill the beans. It's our emotions, right? It's something in here. It's something in here. It's our emotions and those preconceived notions about the way life is. And we call them programs. They're subconscious programs that literally run our lives. Okay? We rarely question them. We just feel that way, so we 100% associate with them. So when you're in a toxic relationship and you feel that something in you needs that other person, despite the fact that they're beating you up and being abusive, and objectively you really like having them in your life is the last thing that you want to have, right? But something in here demands that they're in your life. And that something can be almost thought of as an entity on its own. Okay? It's an emotion. And it almost has like a will, like a free will on its own, and it controls your life. You're helpless. Okay? And that and that's exactly how we act against our own will, you know? We have something in here that pulls us in the completely wrong direction, and we can't make the right decision. We act against our better interest. And that entity is that programming. When we go through our childhood, okay, from the moment we're born, and even from the moment we're conceived, as a matter of fact, because a small, tiny baby in the mother's womb already feels everything because they're connected to the mom, It's as simple as that, right? So as we go through the childhood, the way we're treated, the things that are told to us, all those things we just, oh, hi, Cindy. Really nice to have you here. Thanks for joining. Yeah, so all of those things literally program us. So it's like our operating system is being constantly upgraded with every new notion and observation about the outside world, and all of those programs and the associated emotions stay here. They don't go away. They stay here. And those are exactly the types of emotions that make us, that drive us, act the way we don't even want to act, but we can't help it. Because that's the foundation that's been laid within us when we were growing up as kids, And we associate with all of that so much. We associate with it to a degree that we think it is us. We perceive those programs, emotions, beliefs as if they're part of our identity. And it's very hard for us to start separating with them, looking at the whole scene from the outside and start seeing the woods for the trees, It's very hard to do. Most of us just assume that it's normal, that it's something that cannot be helped. But the critical piece here is the moment you realize that those emotions and subconscious programming, all of those behavioral patterns, that those are the things that run our lives and control us. The moment you realize that empowers you. That empowers you immensely. And why? Here's why. Because if you realize that it's something separate from you, then the next awareness comes. There is something I can do about it. I'm no longer helpless. Okay? It's not as if it's fate or it's not written in the stars. And it's not the case that you were born incomplete. As a matter of fact, we all come to this world as perfect beings. We have all the right resources within us. And it's only during those childhood years, typically, as we go through life, that a lot of these subconscious programs and wrong and bad beliefs about the world and ourselves start suppressing our true selves. Okay? But in reality, we're all perfect internally in there. So our job is to, first of all, realize that in reality, we don't control our lives. It's all of those years and years of bad treatment by our parents or other caregivers and the society, or sometimes even abuse, It's all of those years that have created layers upon layers of emotional patterns within us that control our lives. And in a sense, yes, we all are helpless unless we know how to deal with all of that. And that's where, the hypno-coaching comes into play. I've been involved in this for, at this point, it's over half a year. And I have to tell you, the way mine and my fiance's life has changed, it's incredible. And we're witnessing our clients' lives change. And we're still part of the original academy where we learn to become hypno-coaches. And we're witnessing our colleagues' life change. And It's the most incredible thing that I've ever experienced in my life, you know? One of the most incredible things. So yeah, the answer to today's question that I kept asking and I kept building the momentum, right? The answer is our lives are controlled by our emotions and beliefs that were created when we were young. Sure, it's possible to have very traumatic moments in our late teenage years and when we're, young adults, or even later in life, if the event is super traumatic, obviously. But typically, we are shaped when we're growing up as kids. I think there was an old saying, something along the lines of, some monk, I think some Buddhist monk had said that, give me a small child, and then I'll give it back to you at the age of 6 or 7 as a fully formed person. I'm obviously paraphrasing it, but something to that tune, okay? So it's very ancient knowledge that you create a human being. You create them. When you're, raising your child, it's not as if they just grow up and you are simply the caregiver, feeding them, making sure that they're in a relatively safe environment and dressed and everything, and that's your job done. No, you have to build their persona, tell them the right things, give them the right emotions, guide them the right way through life. And then at the age of 6 or 7, you have, in a way, created a new human being. And the same way you were created by the environment, you were literally shaped by the environment, by the people who raised you, said certain things to you, did certain things to you, and it's all sitting in here, running your life on an autopilot, and you're wondering, why is it that everything is wrong? No matter how hard I try, getting into a good relationship, get a good job, straighten my life out, I just can't help it. I can't help to overeat, drink, not exercise, been there, done that. I've gone through it all, the whole 9 yards, the full range of emotions. And obviously some people have had it 100 times worse. But here's the crazy thing. In the Hypno Transformation Academy, I've seen all sorts of transformations, beautiful ones, amazing ones. There is no trauma that cannot be healed. No matter how hard it seems, it can be healed. And everyone can reveal their true core being. And it's beautiful. It's complete. We all have it within us. And it's waiting to come out. It's waiting to start shining. So whether it's going to happen in this life or the next life, it's going to happen. But the question is, do you want to speed that process up maybe a little? So if you want it, you're welcome to come to cookerstherapy.com and sign up for a free consultation. And I'll show you exactly how this beautiful, wonderful change is possible. And then we'll get started. So thank you everyone for having joined today's live. It was a real pleasure. And I think it's about time I started wrapping up. So today's topic, again, to reiterate for someone who might have joined just now, was that I kept asking myself the question, what is it really that controls our lives, controls our behavior? What is it really that forces us to constantly keep doing the wrong things, treat others badly, treat ourselves badly, not love ourselves? Leading these lives of quiet despair and regret, and not realizing that in reality, the only thing that drives us is our emotions. And if we can straighten them out, get rid of all of those blocking emotions and those beliefs that are ingrained in our subconscious, the bad limiting beliefs. If we can do that, then our lives can change around and the magic can happen. Okay? So everyone has a great evening. I'm going to save this live and chat soon again. I think I'm going to make this thing a regular thing for Sunday evenings. Okay? So thank you everyone and bye-bye.